Right, what I'm going to show you now is reverb, a more creative process rather than the EQ and the compression that I showed you. That's a more corrective thing to control dynamics and whatnot. EQ is not as complex as that looks. It's actually quite simple. There's just typical things there. So you dry signal and you dry control there, which obviously if you've got it in 0, you're not going to have any kind. You're just going to have a complete dry track, which and then wet's obviously the opposite. So it is useful because. Sorry, I don't know how to use your mouse. It is useful.
Yeah.
It is useful, obviously, to get a control on it. Another parameter there is the reverb time, which is something you have to be really careful with because you don't want to put that up too loud. Because obviously it really does muddy up the track if you have it on, especially quite choppy guitar.
Okay.
Continuous strumming, it sounds really nice sometimes. You hear that a lot in like post-rock music. And another thing that a lot of people actually don't show you, and it's really useful, is the EQ. As you can see there, if you drag that down, sorry I cannot use that mouse, drag that down, it is really handy. I think it's probably one of the best things I've learned about the reverb, the Space Designer, sorry, is just because it makes tracks less muddy. I mean, if you're producing dance music, it's not uncommon to actually have reverb on a bass. I mean, obviously it's quite uncommon to have reverb on a bass, like in rock music and guitar and whatnot, on a bass guitar. But I mean, for dance music, you do hear a lot, especially in like deep house and like more punchy, plucky bass lines. It does really help fill out a track. And if you use this EQ, you don't get that muddy sound that you would from actually just EQing a bass as much as you would usually. And also it's quite handy that you can boost there on the higher frequencies, so if you really want to get a sharp, loud snare sound, you just lift that up.
So can I select one frequency here to reverb then?
Yeah, you've got
Okay.
just the same as any, there we go, I've got the hang of it now. The same, so yeah, you could, if you wanted to accentuate a snare reverb, you could boost it there just the same as you would, so you could keep the reverb quite snappy.
Yeah.
Or if you do the opposite, if you didn't want it to be as snappy in the reverb, you know, if you had a really snappy snare as it was and you just wanted the reverb, you know, not trail as much, you can do that, which is just, honestly, it's probably one of the best features anyone's ever shown me, because you can't really see it there. As well. Reverse as well, it's been disabled, I don't know why. Not too sure. I think you have to do that in the settings, which I'll show you another time, just for sake of time. Presets, I think reverb wise it's probably the only time I'll ever tell anybody to use a preset, because it is quite a handy place to start with reverb. There is some good sounds. Prison Main Floor is quite a good one. I tend to go for more medium spades, and you can even get like plate reverbs,
Yeah.
which is like one of the old school kind of ones. You haven't got much selection on this. Maybe not updated for a while.
I tend to delete everything. That's the
Oh. Well, Prince Hall one's also a good one, so one I use quite a lot. I mean, from there you can obviously, once you've set that preset, you can still mess around with the parameters if there is anything particular. I mean, I tend to use Prince Hall 1 and then lower down the EQ. If you want to press play on the track there and have a quick fill around and see if there's anything you like. See, already I think there's a lot too much.
yeah.
There's a lot too much, there's too much. With your wet signal there.
I'm getting somewhere now. So I can play the CQ. Obviously the guitar's quite mid, so can I grab the mids?